Before we begin, I want to name what this is and what this isn't. These choice point episodes aren't lessons, they aren't meditations, they aren't asking you to fix anything or figure anything out. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to do this right. And you don't need to reach a conclusion. This is simply a space to experience something. Think of it like stepping into a moment, one you've lived 100 times before, but slowing it down enough to actually feel what happens inside you. You don't need to change your response. You don't need to choose differently. All I'm inviting you to do is listen and notice what shows up. If nothing comes up, that's okay. If something does, that's okay too. There's no outcome you're supposed to reach here. These episodes exist for one reason only, to help you recognize the moments where choice already lives. So let yourself settle, let the moment unfold, and let your body respond in whatever way it does. That is enough. Someone you care about asks you for something, not a stranger, not a boss, someone who matters. Maybe it's a favor. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's emotional space you don't really have right now. The ask isn't unreasonable. That's what makes it hard. There's no obvious reason to say no. No crisis, no emergency, nothing that you can point to and say, see, that's why. And it happens fast. Before your body has time to register anything, your mouth is already moving. Yeah, of course. That's fine. No problem. You might even feel a small lift at first, relief, connection, that familiar sense of being needed. Your nervous system recognizes this terrain. This is where things stay smooth. This is where nothing escalates. This is where you remain the good one, the steady one, the reliable one. You don't feel anxious yet. You don't feel resentful yet. You feel competent. But somewhere underneath that competence, there's a subtle shift, a tightening you don't quite notice, a quiet bracing, a sense of rearranging yourself internally to make room. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself you can handle it. You may even tell yourself it's not that big of a deal. And maybe it isn't on the surface. The conversation moves on. The moment passes. But later, after the call, the text, the plan is set, something lingers, a heaviness, a low grade irritation you don't feel entitled to, a tiredness that doesn't match what actually happened. You replay it, not because anything went wrong, but because something didn't land. You wonder why you feel off. You tell yourself you shouldn't. After all, you agreed. You said yes. You chose this. Except something moved before you did. You reacted. And because this pattern has worked for so long, it doesn't feel like self betrayal. It feels like adulthood, kindness, like being the bigger person. This is the autopilot path. Not dramatic, not explosive, not obviously harmful, just quietly expensive. And the cost doesn't show up right away. It shows up later in depletion, distance from yourself, and that familiar question you can't quite answer. Why do I feel like this when nothing was wrong? Stay here for a moment, not to judge it or fix it, just to recognize it. Because this is the path most people know by heart. And in a moment, we're going to walk the same exact scenario again, but this time we'll slow it down enough for the choice point to appear. Now let's rewind. Same person, same request, same tone. Nothing about the outside changes. This time, though, something is different. You don't answer right away, not because you're refusing and not because you're making a point. You pause just long enough to feel yourself. And there it is, that sensation you usually move past, the subtle tightening, the forward pull, the impulse to manage. You notice it. You don't judge it. You don't suppress it. You let it exist. You ask yourself one quiet question, not out loud, not dramatically. Can I actually give this without abandoning myself? And you wait. Right now, the answer might still be yes. And if it is, it lands differently. It's cleaner, more grounded, less effort. But maybe it isn't. Maybe there's a quiet no, or a not right now, or a yes with conditions that you've never allowed yourself to name. And here's the important part: you don't rush to justify it, you don't build a case, you don't explain your entire internal process, you don't manage their reactions before it happens. You stay with the sensation, the steadiness underneath the fear, the solidity beneath the urge to please. And when you speak, your voice sounds different. Not harder, not colder, clearer. You say what's true, simply. Maybe it's, I need to think about it, or I don't actually have the capacity for that right now, or even, I want to help, but not in the way that you're asking. Whatever it is, it comes from presence, not panic. And the world doesn't end. Maybe the other person is disappointed. Maybe they need a moment. Maybe nothing dramatic happens at all. But inside you, something shifts. There's no replay loop, no quiet resentment, no low grade depletion waiting for you later. You feel intact, not because the outcome was perfect, but because you were honest with yourself first. This is the pause. This is the choice point, not the yes or the no, the moment before, the moment where you usually move automatically, the moment where you decide whether to manage the room or check in with yourself. Most people never notice it because it's quiet. It doesn't actually announce itself and it doesn't feel urgent. But once you feel it, once you really feel it, it doesn't operate in the dark anymore. That doesn't mean you'll always choose differently. It means you'll choose consciously. And that changes everything. No hesitation, no avoidance, agency. the moment where the story loosens its grip just enough for you to choose. And here's the part most people miss: this didn't require confidence. It didn't require courage in the traditional sense. It required attunement. You didn't overpower the pattern, you listened underneath it. And once you experience this, even once, even briefly, autopilot starts to lose its authority because now you know there was always a moment there, a space, a choice point. You just hadn't been taught how to feel it yet. And that's what these moments are for: not to make you perfect, not to make you fearless, but to help you recognize that you are not as automatic as you were taught to believe. Take a breath here. We don't analyze this, we don't evaluate it, we let it land. Because the more familiar this pause becomes, the less power the old reflex has. And that's how change actually happens: quietly, internally, from the inside out. Before you move on with your day, let's pause here for just a moment. You don't need to understand what came up. You don't need to label it, and you don't need to decide what it means. If something stirred, a sensation, a thought, a feeling, you didn't do anything wrong. And if nothing stirred at all, you didn't miss anything. These moments aren't about answers, they're about recognition. Sometimes the shift is subtle, sometimes it shows up later, sometimes it simply plants a seed. You don't need to act on anything right now. Just notice how you feel in your body as this ends. Notice what feels settled. Notice what feels curious. Notice what feels unfinished without needing to complete it. That's how awareness integrates, not through effort, but through allowance. You can come back to these episodes anytime, not to master them, but to familiarize yourself with the pause. Because the more often you recognize the choice point, the more available it becomes in real life. When you're ready, take a breath and return to your day. You don't need to carry anything with you, it'll find you when it needs to.